Hello. I've already had like 90% of this recorded, but mm, yeah, I'm just going to show you, right? Uh, yep. Um, doesn't mean causation. I just citation needed. Ethnic tension within the country because yeah, I was just what these people. This is the five pillars how liberal values have come to define modern Britain. Um. Yeah, it screams Motivated fan, and then he can't wait, bro. So yeah, knowing that he will watch this, I didn't want to be so mean, because if you watch these videos, you probably know that I am very mean to people that I am debunking. Um, but yeah, knowing that he will actually watch this, I just decided no, not I cannot just be mean to him. So yeah, so this is a video. The five pillars, how liberal values have come to define modern Britain. I have a new microphone. I hope you noticed. I got it on Christmas from my parents. Uh, Actually, my brother got it because he also plans to make a channel, but he doesn't have a channel because unlike me, because I make videos that I make them and I never come back to them. He's just so perfectionist, and he just allowed me to borrow his microphone. So yeah, this is five pillars of modern Islam. Oh, no. Look, five pillars, and he already compared it to Islam. As I think I said, he's a very clearly what if autist fan. Like I already were like here in the video, and then like, yeah. mm, I just decided to make it again and not be so mean because you cannot convince people something. This is why my brother likes Professor Dave explained, but he's so mean to these flat earthers, and I don't think anyone will change their mind when you are so mean to them. So yeah. This is a bodyvoltist fan, and he uses some signs. Like you will see, I'm going to tell you when he says what if autist stuff, because I very much know what if autist and what he says. Me and my brother once almost have fallen into alt-right pipeline because of him. Um, my brother was very moved because he mostly believed him. I didn't quite believe him, but I still believed in some points that he said, which is really dumb now that I think about it. But yeah, this guy is he just fun, most probably. Because like he saw what Evoltus is doing. He uses look. He uses where is it? Text walls. He uses text walls. He uses this image, and the entire thing is a slideshow. Let's just begin.
In Islam, there exists a concept known as the five pillars. They include the Shahada, the declaration of faith, Salah, partaking in five daily prayers, zakat, charity, Sawm, fasting during the holy month of Ramadan, and Hajj, the pilgrimage to Mecca all Muslims are expected to make if able. Named pillars due to their vital role in holding up and providing solid foundations for Muslim belief. A similar notion can be applied to the quasi-religion of the modern British state, that of liberalism. The modern British state is not
Here you've got it. Comparing liberalism to religion, like calling liberalism a quasi-religion. Um, I'm just going to close the window. So yeah, I know that in the original, I did not debunk it because it was just so not smart on the face value. So yeah, liberalism is not a religion because it doesn't have the divine, it doesn't have the afterlife, and you know, it just doesn't act as a religion. There isn't any tradition linked to it. You don't need to do anything. You don't need to pray. You don't need to achieve anything. You're not required to be a good person. You are. There isn't a divine. There isn't an after. Like this is not a religion. Let's just continue.
one that resembles anything of an institution with thousands of years of history behind it, a system which had adopted elements from a plethora of backgrounds, ideological and religious alike, rather appears to have been based solely off of the values of liberal democracy, which are the only guiding values of the state and of many of its residents. British governments do not adhere to any sort of value other than those which represent a culmination of all that liberalism has given birth to since its ultimate ideological victory upon the end of World War II in 1945. 1945 was the birth of Britain as we know it today, but not the birth of Britain as a nation. It is the idea that World War II is our 1776 or our 1789 that has driven liberalism and the attitudes of the people and governments of this nation since it ended. The state religion may be Christianity in name, but to people of antiquity, it would appear that the world and cultural practices of the Britons centered around ideas of so-called progress.
This is like the first sign that he's a Wodivoltist fan. Um, Comparing our how ancient people would think about us. This is very Wodivoltist like because he just thinks that we are crazy because any other society would think that we are crazy throughout history. Yeah, first sign basically.
Rather than faith. Without further ado, the five pillars of modern Britain are: number one, diversity and leftist social ideology; number two, World War II; number three, the NHS and the social services as a whole; number four,
Yeah, I can already tell you that I'm not going to debunk the NHS stuff because I don't live in the UK, and I don't know much about their economics.
our mainstream popular culture; and number five, so called British values. Although the liberal religion has asserted itself over virtually the entire Western world, these are the pillars that are most specific to Britain itself. Some of these are pretty much applicable to the entire Western world, in particular diversity and consumer culture, and this is very much the case of Britain, and is probably much more prominent and pronounced in everyday life than in most other parts of the West. As is with the idea of pillars supporting the values that hold up the faith that has virtually seeped its way into every aspect of British life, these five pillars of modern Britain may as well keep the roof held above Westminster Palace. The question that lingers,
Speak writing. I'm dead serious. Speak writing.
though, is that of, can they keep that roof held forever? Pillar 1: Diversity and leftist social ideology. The first core idea of the modern British nation that exists amongst much of the liberal establishment and the adherents to it in the population is that we are a nation of immigrants, that the idea of Britishness and what it means to be British.
Well, yeah, that's basically your team.
does not extend beyond that, one held together by our greatest strength. Parroted to us through state media is the idea that all we have in common with our neighbors is that we live in the same nation, and that alone, regardless of how much or how little we actually have in common, is the one thing that is holding us together as a nation. The liberal trope that the Brittonic Celts and Anglo
Well, yeah, because we are people, we are not really so much different from each other.
Saxons were as incompetent as can be and had to have the rest of the world brought to them to be able to achieve anything, whilst being labelled colonizers for even daring to come here in the first place, serves as the basis for liberal policies regarding migration, which have changed the demographic fabric of this nation forever and have seen Britons become minorities in many of their own settlements. Liberalism at its core is not an ideology that is reliant on or advocates for such stark demographic change or diversity itself, but do you really think the likes of John Locke were about to foresee the demographics of modern Britain? Liberalism is not an ideology with a single founding text or document serving as the basis for all belief. Rather, it is one that, especially in a social regard, seems to be obsessed with the idea of progress at all costs. We know who has outlined and defined this definition
Oh,
of progress, and we know that those who spent years participating in and not questioning the current system of governments in Britain for years did not tend to vote with the idea of society
it is sort of octopus. Ah, yeah, this is basically a textual where he says, all right, textual. The next sign, this is a Wally Voltist font. I think he even uses the same font as Royal Lynch. Um, just swapped because Wally Voltist uses white on black, and he uses the opposite. The future was going to evolve out of multiculturalism and the end of history. Um, why multiculturalism? Like, all right, I'm not a historian, but like source and the end of history. I don't actually know what he means by the end of history.
and its future in mind. People almost exclusively tend to vote based on their current circumstances, and a demographically unrecognizable nation was not something that
Look, um, for Southeast Asian, this is so census in 2001. Two black, one mixed race. So this would be, oh my god, I'm so bad at math. 1.8, two, 4, 4.4 plus 4.4, 8.8. Right, I don't realize that I could just do the white and just, you know what, let's just move on.
the people who elected the likes of Tony Blair had to worry about. We feel the consequences of their actions when
Oh no, there is a Hindu script at the station. I think this is a tube station, subway station, or um, yeah, station. All right. Um, what a tragedy.
whenever we visit any of our city centres today. Diversity under liberalism was, and still is, sold to us as a good thing, our greatest strength, something that needed to happen in order for us to be taken kicking and screaming into the future, that fuels innovation, that keeps society running, etc. If you've ever watched the news or been to school in this country over the past 20 years or so, you could probably recite it all off by heart. Diversity, in short, to liberalism, is what keeps us alive as a country. Despite the obvious tension, division, ghettoization, de facto segregation, and harm it has brought, it is still sold as our greatest strength. It certainly is to those interested in the erosion and polarization of the nation and society.
Yeah. So basically, he says that you know basically that migration is bad because it leads to division with society. But like it only leads to division when there is someone like let's say Nigel Farage or Donald Trump that tell you that these migrants are going to kill your culture, so you hate them. and because they are systematically treated as the second class citizens, um, then yeah, maybe we would still get the ghettoization, but maybe if we just gave everybody, if you just gave everybody an equal chance, and if you stopped demonizing them, maybe we would all, you know, wait, I just got distracted. I have ADHD, so this just happens to me. So yeah, so we just got. Um, so maybe if you just got everything to be, then you would maybe not have a problem with migration.
society as they've been known for thousands of years. But to the man on the street is a land which is his own through heritage that he shares with millions who see him as
Maybe you feel alienated because you don't feel the me. Oh, I love society.
different in his own land, who do not interact with him and who live in isolation to him, really his own. The problems with diversity and mass migration are plain and obvious to see and have been explained and outlined.
What Enoch Powell said about migration in the 60s. The 60s. 60s is not quite mm, treated as an academic, period. The examples critics of diversity and mass migration often highlight, such as increasing crime, continue to reoccur as nothing is done about the issue. Increasing crime continue not because of their race, but because okay, I hope he doesn't mean by that race. He doesn't mean by this racism, but to any races that could watch this. Increases in crime are because you treat them as second class citizens and they obviously want more.
So many times. But to many in this country, it will never be all immigrants, and that's all that matters. As long as there are the good ones who work, that being the bare minimum, no matter what else they do that might fraction the nation, that will be enough for them. As long as Indians stand behind the counter and do their job at McDonald's, as long as their immigrant friend is very nice, diversity will be the greatest strength of this nation. All attempts to counteract it will have to be struck down, and it will forever remain worshipped as part of the first pillar of the liberal system of governance of this nation. In similar terms to diversity, much of which is intertwined with the second part of this pillar, leftist social ideology is also seen as a guiding principle of the modern British nation. According to liberalism, all must be done to protect all forms of social freedom, no matter how degrading and degenerate they may be, and
So yeah, he says that degenerate and degrading. Trust woman. Din, dun, dun, din, din, din. My choice. Woman's rights. And abortion is a right. I think I don't need to debunk how this is not degrading and degenerate to trust women and give them their own choice and make them give them the same rights as men, because they are also human beings that are at the same level of consciousness that you are. We are the same species. We are the same level of consciousness. They also deserve right. And it's not degenerate because I don't know what you mean by degenerate. And also the next, what votist type shit, degeneracy. This is his buzzword also. So abortion is a right because well, most fetuses are aborted before they even have a nervous system, a brain, and the brain is really necessary to have life. And still, even in that, I wouldn't treat, before the brain is made, abortion as a tragedy, but people still treat it like it's a tragedy. So you still got your points, right? No people ever says that abortion is good. But yeah, that's it because
of social freedom, no matter how degrading and degenerate they may be, and all must be done to fight any repressive attempts to quell it. Leftism itself is virtually its own religion. Its followers, no matter how religious they claim to be, always place the works of hypothetical reason they gather ahead of faith. Faith,
As I said, what I said about liberalism can also apply to leftism. The only thing really connecting leftism to uh, religion is that they are both, you know, systems of belief, and they have their own morals. But like religion needs to have its own god, its own divine. Like I know that Buddhism technically doesn't, but it also has some supernatural elements. Like it's very hard to identify the religion, and like right wing also has these things. Fascism also has these things. You then also need to say that fascism and you believe in religion, even if you're atheist and you believe the same things as you said on the ideological basis. That is actually quite correct. Like if Jesus existed in a modern world, we would call him a hippie. So yeah, the difference between ideology and religion is that ideology doesn't have a divine and afterward, and uh, and it doesn't have really that kind of myths and stories about people, um, that inspire other people. Um, it doesn't have these moral things like what Jesus was talking with his allegories and stuff. Uh, yeah, they are basically two things that are related but aren't the same.
to them, is something that can be rewritten and altered for the purposes of pushing political agendas. It is simply performative given how much they engage in its practice. Leftist social ideology is something that is present in virtually all aspects of everyday British life. Even if the government does not adhere to it by its most stringent of definitions, i.e., the open borders and the issue of transgenderism as of late, its influence is plain to see. The mere idea that the government must follow,
What was
i.e., the open borders and the issue of
UK Code Rules Roman refers to biological sex, transgender people excluded from definition. Huh. Well, the judges are probably biased.
transgenderism as of late, its influence is plain to see. The mere idea that the government must follow certain elements of leftist social ideology demonstrates said influence. Much of the youth, which has grown up having
I
these
love
values,
how supporting Ukraine is leftist social ideology. Like supporting a nation that was attacked by an actively fascist nation that wants to destroy it and that commits horrible war crimes on them, is really leftist social ideology.
lecture to them, has chosen to adopt an ideology representative of the extreme social beliefs that they believe to be ideal, and to see the reluctance to accept them as high treason,
Okay,
exemplified
these are extreme social beliefs if you like take the whole of history into like some sort of one cohesion belief. But we live in the modern times. Like in the modern day, these aren't as extreme social beliefs, and they shouldn't be, because extremism doesn't mean that something isn't right. The fact that you're extreme doesn't mean that you're wrong. This is a logical fallacy.
the worship of ideology involved in keeping modern liberal British society afloat. Slowly, as Britain has adopted more and more policies in line with this radical interpretation of liberalism.
Right, everybody knows that socialism and Marxism and communism are like you see what I mean? Liberalism is centrist. Socialism and any form of this authoritarian left shit isn't radical version of liberalism. I think that like anarchism would be a radical version of liberalism, like anarcho capitalism, something like that. But definitely not communism. So like why not? Because communism doesn't is very collectivist. Liberalism is not collectivist. Uh, I'm saying mostly about this authoritarian or totalitarian left crap. So when I mean communism, I wish there was one word to describe communism, socialism, and Marxism in one, because they're not the same, but they're still similar. Um, and many people who believe in them believe, you know, in all of them. But yeah, basically, I'm getting off the subject. Um, if you yeah if you take liberalism to its extreme, you would get anarcho-capitalism. You wouldn't get any socialism or communism or Marxism. um, and like liberalism also doesn't have quite the concept of class conflict. They have definitely are capitalist, liberals. My dad is a liberal, he is a capitalist. I don't like that he's a capitalist. Mm, yeah, you're basically wrong.
The enthusiasm of many people has not necessarily grown, but their support has remained strong, and their popularity has grown over time as more people simply become accustomed to the ideas of the time they have grown up with, and the attitudes of the older generations soften with age. As long as leftist, highly liberal, social ideas remain prominent in the media, in academia, and in the vague rhetoric of the state,
Okay, so in academia, he shows people protesting against genocide. Tell me, what is protesting against genocide? A radical idea. How is protesting against genocide a radical idea? Explain, please. I beg you.
albeit not being espoused in the fullest form by it, liberal ideas, including that of diversity, will continue to show themselves to be outstanding values of modern Britain. Pillar 2, World War II. If you live in, attended school in, or have even just visited Britain, you will be aware of the impact that World War II has had on us as a nation and our beliefs regarding ourselves. It is drilled into you from a young age. You
I really we also have that in Poland. We are so much bombarded with this, with these Holocaust images. When I was like 13, I was like, we visited the World War II museum here in Gdańsk, and Jesus Christ, like, imagine you if you're 13 years old and just see a fucking picture of dead, starved bodies of Jews in a concentration camp. That didn't traumatize me. It's very hard to traumatize me over that things, but yeah, it was also very heavy, even for my parents. So um, yeah, we also have that in Poland. We are also very much remember of World War Two. He later says that they are also about World War One, but we don't really remember World War One as national struggle, because why? So in Poland, everything is just like funneled into World War Two.
Read about World War One and the sacrifices that were made, told essentially that it was a just cause because they died for their nation, without any further context being given. But it is with the Second World War that the agenda really begins to take shape. Modern liberal Britain
The agenda.
sees its founding moment as the 8th of May 1945, when victory was declared over Germany and the war in Europe came to its conclusion. When we hear the liberal war cry of, "they fought for our freedom," it is implied as meaning that they fought for the society we live under today, when in reality, as is plain to see in countless interviews with veterans who actually fought in the Second World War, modern Britain to them was not at all worth fighting for. The attitude towards World War II in this country constitutes its place as essentially one of the elements of the liberal religion of modern Britain. The idea that we fought in a global war to defend our territory and way of life is something that would not at all be drawn into question by someone who had
Wait. Uh,
a war to defend our territory and way of life is something that would not at
and the society and way of life that we fought for in World War Two is whatever we have now. So to question narrative around World War Two is to blaspheme against liberalism. I don't know. I probably have to agree on that one. Um, yeah, I just have nothing. I probably have to agree. I guess.
all be drawn into question by someone who had not done any research on World War II other than what they had learnt in school or had heard from the older generations, themselves raised on wartime propaganda. We have been raised on the idea that World War II is the most pivotal moment in our entire history, the saving grace and splendor of our people and nation. I'm not going to deny that within our recent history it is, but in the entire history of the Anglo-Saxon people, is it really so? Is the moment in which we fought an enemy, seen now by many as the last stand of European society and, as a result, lost everything we had, really the most proud and righteous moment in our history? Who was it really righteous for if we were to lose everything from our empire to our cities and all sense of national pride?
Okay, let's get that over with. British or any European colonialism was bad. Time Ghost History has now made a series about World War, like after World War Two stuff, and there they talk about British crimes in Kenya and uh, British imperialism in Egypt, and also like Britain didn't do anything with Rhodesia despite them being their colony, or anything with apartheid despite South Africa also being de facto their colony. And they didn't even mention India because, like, bruh, India was like a total fucking mess, like in a bad sense of this word. They made some very bad things there. So yeah.
Over the next 80 years. Had history gone the other way and if liberalism did not evolve in the way that it has done, I doubt I would be saying the things I am now about the Second World War. My point is more one of, did the ends really justify the means? Given the point we are at now, where we
So yeah, top countries origin foreign-born residents of Belgium. So he basically cuts here Netherlands, Italy, France, and Romania, which, as we all know, conservatives treat as good migrants actually. So this is not quite accurate.
stand on the verge of a continent almost completely unrecognizable due to mass migration and a gradual decline in our culture and society, to the point where Britain exists outside of our major towns and cities only, and our cities themselves do not resemble anything that could possibly be deemed cultural. Was World War II really all that we are told it was? World War II is sold in Britain as the war that saved our civilization, that defeated the most powerful enemy in the world, something that can never be allowed to come to prominence again.
Far right, so wrong. True. Don't vote for Nazis. True. Reform UK are the most fascist party in the UK that you could find. They promote ideas that everyone who is not deemed to live in Britain, who doesn't have the same culture and who doesn't have the same beliefs, should be deported back, no matter how bad their you know how bad the country that they are deported to is, and that they should, like, Reform UK is also nationalist, like openly nationalist, because they just decline European Union despite it being the only way for UK to be a meaningful superpower. Um, yeah, by UK I mean Europe, because like we are all Europeans. Like for example, EU is a chance for Slovenia to be a superpower because it will be a part of Europe. But yeah, Reform UK just denies it because some vague concept of national sovereignty. Um, why? Like your freedoms will be still the same. Like I don't get Brexit totally. I totally don't get Brexit.
as a result of said defeat, and as a result of this, justify
I despise Tommy Robinson. A lot of what he has said has resulted left the state. The left slash the state, bro. Leftist doesn't control. This is again one of Alter's bullshit. The leftism doesn't control um modern world. Just look at the conservative, how conservatives run Britain. They are not leftist. They have nothing to do with leftism.
the destruction of all that slightly dares question the liberal faith. This same attitude still exists amongst a significant chunk of the population, many of whom will list the fact that we fought the Germans and nothing much else other than maybe diversity when asked about what makes them proud to be British. If this attitude even exists, then the answer is that World War II was fought for anything but Britain. Hence, for the role it has played in defining our national agenda for the past 80 years, World War II earns its place as the second pillar of modern Britain. Pillar 3, the NHS and the social welfare system. We are all familiar with the fact
Yeah, as I said, I don't know much about these parts of Britain. They probably like Zeus in Poland, so I know probably a lot, but so they are probably just necessary. But like, I don't. I'm not going to talk about stuff I don't quite know much about.
and thus everything must be done, no matter signaling. Modern Britain reveres its social safety net as sacred, and thus everything must be done, no matter how contrarian or harmful it is to the nation, to ensure its continued existence. Pillar 4, our mainstream culture. Mainstream consumer culture and its abundance are certainly not things that are specific to Britain, but their presence in everyday life is undeniably profound. Millions fill the seats at football stadiums up and down the country.
You know how was I happy when I finally heard someone call football football? Because I just watched some, because like much of the English content I watch is American. So when someone calls football finally its rightful name, I'm just so happy and thrilled.
3 p.m. every Saturday. Millions turn on reality TV shows to unwind after a long day at work. Millions throw themselves behind our national sports teams and accept the agendas pushed through their successes. Those
Yeah, I kind of, you know, agree, but then okay, later it devolves into some 1984 conspiracy theory. So yeah.
are just a few examples of what could be called mainstream modern British consumer culture, otherwise characterized as Britslot. There is nothing inherently wrong with enjoying things, and there definitely is a truth to the Reddit intellectuals' war cry of let people enjoy things, but it gets to a point. When
Yeah, because everybody knows that the more degenerate it is, the more banned it should be, and degenerate is very subjective term, if you ask me, and any other human being in the world.
football scores serve as a distraction from the events that unfold around you and that actually affect you, or when you become so consumed by content that does nothing but pacify and nullify the mind, you become a part of a hive mind. Most Western societies struggle with this.
Yeah, you become part of the hive mind. I agree, but he's kind of more aggressive than I am. Like, you become part of the hive mind, Jesus. No, no, you are not in fact becoming part of a hive mind because I don't think you understand what hive mind is. Uh, if you say that. Uh, yeah, just let people enjoy things.
the UK being no exception, but it serves as an interesting example regardless. Football, for example, is something that has been weaponized against the British people. The working man's game, commercialized and destroyed by corporate interests, still enjoys a large, loyal
Okay, I don't get it. How it was destroyed by by corporate interest because they like this is how our economy works. I don't believe in our economic system, but I believe that in this part of our economy, like the sports and stuff, the sponsorship system is kind of really maybe necessary. Like again, I don't really care about sports, so I'm not the one to speak here. Um, but like if you ask me, this is capitalism, the thing that you conservatives really like. I'm just going to leave you with that. I always love when, conservatives like Wodivoltists say that the elites are bad, while the elites are mostly centrist or right wing. They're never left wing because major corporations would suffer from socialist policies. Just gonna leave you with that.
following in virtually every corner of this land. Fans fork out large portions of their income on tickets and travel to follow their clubs home and away. Broadcasters generate billions in income, which finds its way into the pockets of clubs themselves, who invest back into the clubs to keep the fans returning for more. The idea of football as being a sport for the working man is completely gone. The idea of it being a genuine tradition is also. Season tickets price out local fans whilst tourists snap up the empty seats. But regardless,
Okay, how is it gone? You still didn't explain how is it gone. Like the fact that it was monetized doesn't mean Christmas was also monetized, and people don't say it's end of tradition. Also, for me, Christmas being Christmas being monetized is kind of the most stupid things are one of the stupidest thing our society really made and what capitalism really brought us to. But yeah, there is really nothing contradictory with monetizing sports if they are profitable. You believe in market capitalism, so let's just let market capitalism do its work. All right.
in an attempt to extract the last enjoyment from the game that they can, fans resort either to forking out on Sky, BT, and Amazon Prime to keep up, or risk running into the law with purchases of dodgy television sticks. Regardless of the burdens thrown up against them, the fans keep returning, and the clubs and broadcasters are well aware of this. Football is utilized against the masses to placate them with entertainment on the weekends whilst their nation collapses around them. To many in this country, it is their only peace, their only form of refuge from a life that does not seem worth living, and a nation that in its current form is not worth fighting for. The same loyalty given to football teams is never given to the nation outside of, ironically, the sphere of sports, because in its current form, there is virtually nothing worth being proud of in this nation. In its place, however,
Yeah, here we've got an average right wing argument made. Actually, I think it was made up by the Nazis that insult minority, rape white woman. As if insert minority was always one unified people that do everything the same and are basically the same and are all just the same, have the same minds, have the same looks. Like, just congratulations, you're racist, or at least you imply that you're racist, or at least you know what I mean, right?
Stands the glories of the national team and the nation's domestic teams, which suffice for the fool's patriots, and which are all that exists in way of pride for the castrated. If we have reached a
For the castrated, Jesus Christ. Is this the next Voltivoltist fan sign that he is just super dramatic?
point where teams unrepresentative of this nation are all we have to be proud of, then who are we? Who did anything for us sports wise before? The media in general serves as another example of how vapid and mindless our mainstream culture is. Large portions of this nation were
Oh, here we've got it in the main concept. Like, please. Why AI though? You could use any other source.
flocking to their TV sets to watch Love Island long before it exploded in
And
popularity
like,
stateside.
when he finally cites some source, it is AI overview, right? This is so much conservative.
The happenings of the celebrity world are the be all and end all for many, and tabloid newspapers fly off the shelves nationwide daily. I understand that this issue is not specific to the UK, but it is certainly an interesting example regardless. Surrounded by a nation in decline, the result of a political situation that seems to be out of their control, the easy solution is to confide in the happenings of another world, that of reality television and celebrity gossip. As long as that is there, as long as it serves its purpose of distraction and to immerse viewers in fiction, it will always function as intended. Our mainstream news media is no better. For virtually its entire existence, the BBC has served as nothing but the mouthpiece of the state and its
Um, Showing migrant crisis in photos isn't. It is just people doing their job, because this is what you know. How was it in English? Jesus Christ! And now I forgot it even in Polish. All right.
tedious rhetoric. Our major newspapers and television channels are controlled by an extremely small and astonishingly wealthy group of people, and the rhetoric pushed by them serves to divide, not to inform or to educate. Yet, in spite of all of this, these are hailed as the pros of living in a democracy. If all they do is divide, is there anything virtuous about them? The mainstream news media has served only to mislead and to divide during a period
What?
of time where unity is more important than ever before.
What? Wh- Why is unity now more important than ever before? I could like mention World War Two, the Falklands War, the I don't know, the Cold War, where the Soviet Union and the Russians were way closer to Great Britain than they are now. Um, okay, maybe the Trump presidency, but this still requires unity in whole of Europe, basically. But there is really nothing that now requires, unity in Great Britain. Yeah, it would be great if they had unity, if yeah, right? Unity is always good, but like they don't need it now the most that they did.
In addition to this, however,
And this is also the part where I think I stopped doing this. So yeah, this is now the things I haven't watched yet.
reality TV, celebrity gossip, and football are not alone in the fact that they are tenets of a vapid artificial culture that could not be further disconnected from the culture of this land. No matter how immersed in our traditional values and mannerisms we are, which at the moment are virtually non existent to many, they do not matter. They do not constitute anything worth protecting or anything of note. With their attention diverted into soulless matters of celebrity worship and consumer sports, anything could be planted upon their nations before their very eyes without them noticing a thing. Thus, in masking themselves as elements of our culture and
I think that most of the people he shows, like these um, fat old men, are mostly conservative. Like they just, I'm just associating them with conservatives.
core principles of our nation, modern football, reality TV, and celebrity gossip, and the mainstream media serve to inform the British people of what their culture and identity supposedly is, something
This okay.
that can obviously
So there is breakfast. So yeah, it's 5 minutes
molded to fit the desires of a
already.
few people. Pillar 5, so called British values. A tab with about as much credibility and honour as that of the coalition government, which had it blue tacked upon every classroom wall in the country, British values serve to do nothing but inform the youth of what being British truly is, which, according to them, would be aligning yourself with all of the vague Fukuyama esque ideas of liberal democracy in a world functioning under principles of the end of history. Legally required to be taught
You know that every society kind of function that way, based on end of history fallacy. Like this society is probably doing it the least with, like, people who know history and know this fallacy and are predicting geopolitical stuff into maybe future societal changes and know that it isn't true. This is probably the world where more people know that this is not the end of history than ever before. um Still, it's very small minority of people, but it still exists. uh, and, like, there were also, like, there was, like, one philosopher, I don't remember which one, in ancient Greece, that said that the world became less magical as time went on, and that they were now living in the least magical age. Where less important stuff happened. um so yeah, the end of history was basically, um used, um, through entire history. Yeah, basically.
in schools across the country. The 5 values put forward by the coalition are that of democracy, the rule of law, individual liberty, tolerance, and respect. There is nothing uniquely British in character about any of these values.
Yeah, these values are quite liberal, to be honest, because, like, a nation can't have its own values. There will be always disagreements, especially in democracy. Like, in a totalitarian or authoritarian state, there can be values of a nation because a nation is basically one man or just several people, and they decide on ideology. But, like, with democracy, it's more fluid. It's more like, kind of. So I kind of agree, but still, these are liberal values, and these are good values that everyone should be taught. And, like, these are also very Western values because they are liberal values, and we are a liberal society. So these are kind of values of Britain, if you ask me. Like, democracy, tolerance. What was it? Rule of law, individual freedom, liberty. Yeah, these are Western values, to be honest. So they are British values. You know what? Forget that I said anything before. Like, these are Western values. So these are values also of Britain.
They are liberal values, which, as matter of fact, would not sound out of place when lectured to the youth in any modern Western country that has seen its soul and identity eaten away by liberalism. But it is undeniable that when sold as quote unquote British values, they have an effect on the way people think and what they come to see the identity of their country as being. Although it's pretty unlikely that anyone on the left will give you the direct answer of our shared British values, when you ask them what pride they take in being British, the influence of them is still felt in many places, and in many ways, they are simply a byproduct of millennial ideas of what Britain is, and through their promotion in the education system, ideas that persist amongst quite a large proportion of the youth. To the idealistic millennial, these values would be those that united their idea of a peaceful, multicultural Britain, one at ease with its cultural and societal decline, actually going as far as to accept that as a good thing more.
Societal and cultural decline. Source. Um, yeah, I don't think that we've got uh, an entire thing. Uh, Correlation does not mean causation. I don't quite know what he means by this answer. Can you see that it's second place though? It really doesn't matter. Correlation doesn't automatically cause causation. I claim that it did. It doesn't even matter in this circumstance between there is no attempt to try and say correction doesn't equal causation. Maybe I'm just dumb that I don't get it. Um. So yeah. Basically, how is tolerance contributing to the fall of Britain? You know what's honestly contributing to the fall of Britain? Like decades of conservative rule where they concentrated power among the wealthy and the old people, the same as they try to do currently in Poland. Like the fact that conservatives and peace and yes, this is our mainstream conservative party are so similar is just really shows how Europe is one. Um, and yeah, uh, individual liberty. Yeah, all of these things that contribute, and Brexit was also a big one, right? Because tariffs and stuff. Um, like total Brexit is like a total mistake. And I don't think I need to tell you why it is that way. Mm, yeah, so basically, conservatives really did that. If you just kept liberals or leftists in power, then it wouldn't really happen. Or maybe it would be like, slower.
often than not. This mindset is still very much in full force in a lot of settings, especially in public life and amongst the left, with a lot of state mantras still revolving around this idea. But for anyone aware of the downsides of mass migration, multiculturalism, and liberalism, it is obvious that this has not occurred and that it never will. While it is undeniable that fringe elements of the right are certainly more influential and enjoy far more support than they used to say that their ideas are now completely acceptable in the mainstream is quite far fetched, and the prominence of what I think is better to refer to as the coalition mindset after the government that actually put pen to paper on these ideas is still very much widespread. This coalition mindset refers to that of these vague British values as being genuine uniting principles of the British nation, even if it is becoming more obvious than ever that
The West has never had a problem with human rights. They have a problem with identifying who is human. Well, yep.
this is not the case. As ethnic communities become more and more insular and align themselves with their own, there is still a vague hope within the liberal masses of this nation that we actually are one nation under liberalism. Although their view of us might not literally revolve around the idea of us being united by the coalition mindset itself, their own worldview certainly reeks of it. Their ideas are as out of date as can be, akin to the end of history and some almost messianic notion of a world without conflict that could have only come to fruition in a nation that was 95% white. As long as these values are taught, no matter what form they may be in, and no matter where that teaching takes place, they will always stick with someone and persist as the basis for their ideology. As long as it is passed down, it will continue to broaden the rift that exists within this nation. The coalition mindset, as a vague cornerstone of mindless utopian liberal ideology, cements itself as the fifth and final pillar of modern Britain, as its persistence exemplifies what the state wants from us and what a large section of the population wants to.
This is the whole point of these British and liberal values. It doesn't want anything from you. It just wants the rule of law, democracy. It values personal freedom. How could you speak against personal freedom and against dignity and against respect and against tolerance? These all are just good things. They are inherently good. I don't know how else should I explain it to you because it's just so obvious. I know I should be explaining it to you, but I just don't know how. Okay, imagine you are in the place of these migrants, and then some stupid fucking guy says you should be deported because you have different religion or different skin color, and because you are raping their woman. No, No, this is what tolerance is all about. You tolerate them. So yeah, I got quite mad at this guy. I shouldn't, and I shouldn't also. You know, hurt his feelings. I forgot how to say it. All right, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry for my dumpassery. But yeah, tolerance. Well, maybe democracy less. So, but democracy is the best system we've ever tested. We ever had in history. Like I have better system. Like you saw with my silly conversations, debunking video, that democracy is really can be improved. But yeah, all other are really good values, and they are inherently moral. I don't know how else to explain it to you. Just accept it. All right, and they're also inherently Western because this is what Western society is built upon.
Nation to be. The main thing that can be drawn from this is that Britain is now predominantly a nation of liberal ideas. Its state ideals are liberal, its past victories are liberal, its culture is liberal, and its religion is liberal. It is not a nation that represents anything that it once did, and the cultural change we have seen in recent years has outdone so much of what was once us as a nation. Modern Britain is far from a Christ worshipping nation. Its religion is liberalism, and its celebration of the faith is consumer society.
No, I already debunked that it is another religion. So yeah. What else? I don't know, man. I really just want to go eat breakfast. So no, you wrong. Like the fact that nobody in the UK in the past could predict what the UK is now doesn't really mean that the modern UK isn't good. I just basically debunked 90% of what if Autist says. The fact that people in the past would thought about our society as subjective thing, as degenerate, ungodly, and just morally bad, doesn't mean that we are morally bad. We are more enlightened society than ever. I know that probably I know that more enlightened times will probably be in the future. There will be more enlightened times than modern. But like we for now in history we are the most good society that has developed, major society. In Iceland they don't really lock their doors because they are just so peaceful. They don't even have military, so yeah, Iceland is for now the best society for me. Okay, maybe Iceland combined with the Nordics. But they are basically yes. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, we are just the best society in history, the most enlightened, the most smart, the smartest. Sorry, and yeah, with the best system in history. That's basically it. Because I just want to go eat breakfast, and this video is basically over. So I guess goodbye. Debunked, I guess. Like, of course, some points I didn't debunk, but still, the points I wanted to debunk, I did.